This video is sponsored by STREAMYARD. If you're an aspiring content creator but don't know where to start, this all-in-one platform is essential for all of your recording, editing, and publishing needs. And by using our code or following the link in the description, STREAMYARD is giving our viewers $10 off their first month subscription. So what are you waiting for, horror fans? Start creating, streaming, and posting today. Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And yes, a little bit of a different topic for us today. I mean, we've kind of covered some gaming stuff, especially recently with Ilphonic hooking us up with a copy of Killer Clowns. We do have our live stream available. It's a little rocky. You know, we're kind of new to all this, but we had some fun with it. But yeah, man, I really didn't think that we'd be talking video games again this soon, but the world works in funny ways because I guess to kick things off here, we'll start with the first piece of news because, yeah, we got two big pieces of horror video game news. And the first one you all know is near and dear to my heart. And that is that the company Night Dive is remastering The Thing from 2002. And oh my gosh, I am so beyond excited for this. Luke, how familiar are you with this game and how are you feeling about it?
You know, I've never actually played this game myself, and I can't remember exactly what prompted me. I think maybe we were working on some sort of project regarding The Thing, but I know I had sat down and watched a playthrough on YouTube of the actual game. Now, I didn't get all the way through, but I got a few hours into it. And I thought it was just really well done, very intriguing, especially kind of adding to that lore of The Thing. So, you know, hearing this news, I wasn't expecting it. You know, I didn't know we were really going to get anything in terms of another avenue for The Thing. But, you know, even though it is remastered, I'm excited to actually, I'm not a video game player. I never have. I was way back in the day, haven't been for the better part of 10 years now. You know, I am excited to get this one, though, because I think the storytelling aspect of it was really well done. So, you know, having this remastered and having this available to us, I am absolutely excited for it.
I know this was definitely on my wish list as far as like remasters go. This I'd really love if someone would pick up the Pipeworks Godzilla games from back in the day. But this was definitely one that I was always eager and kind of really hoping that they would at least pick up, because there's a lot of really cool elements to this that I feel like are going to be circulating the internet here over the weekend as people discuss this. One of those being that this game had like the introduction of the kind of paranoia system, where every human that you pick up as like a partner or like somebody at the base, or whether it's somebody that you arrive at the base with, they have like a paranoia meter, and you kind of have to keep that in check and keep them in line. Otherwise, they're going to freak out, run off. And of course, if you've seen the movie, you know that is in the most opportune time to be assimilated. And yeah, I love that. I also love that, you know, they do have that system in there where it's like you kind of have to figure out which one of your friends or people may already be infected. And there's just a lot of really great intuitive things that they had in this game. And that's just for 2002. So the fact that they're kind of coming back, they're going to clean up some of the bugs from it. They're going to really give it a nice, I think they said it's already going to be upscaled. So that way it will play at 4K resolution, 120 frames per second. I mean, it's going to have advanced 3D renders. So like it's going to, I think the plan for them, from what I saw and what I've read so far, is it's going to still emulate that style of like a, you know, 2002 kind of older style video game, but they're going to clean it up real nice and make it look kind of like one of these throwback games that we get nowadays where they're trying to emulate it. So I'm super excited about it.
You know, in looking at games nowadays, I mean, we've talked about it. I think we've touched on it probably in some of our videos. Of, you know, there are so many games out there nowadays that play just like films, and you know, it's just really this progression of, you know, from Super Nintendo, Sega up until today, where, you know, you're watching these very cinematic games, and oftentimes a lot of those games, you know, end up being translated into films. Now, a lot of them don't work, but you know, there is that kind of smooth transition because these games are so cinematic. What I'm excited about is, when we talk about John Carpenter's The Thing, and you talk about any expansion on the lore, remake, sequel, anything like that, it's almost sacred ground where it's like, hold on a minute, that's one of those films that, is held in such high regard. But, when you look at it as an expansion of lore on a video game, I think that's a little less offensive. I think more people are, more accepting to that. And I'm excited to see where this does lead to. Now, there is, I think it was in the mid 2000s, there was it was supposed to be made for sci-fi, movie. It was supposed to be an event. And I did read the first installment in the screenplay. There's the other ones out there. They're available online. It was a pretty compelling story. I'd be intrigued to see if there's going to be anything, this one does well and people are really excited about it. If they do any expansion on that, or, adapt those screenplays to an actual video game, because I think that is kind of ripe when you actually read those screenplays, that you could get some video game characters and some expansion on that lore. So I'm excited to see if this does well. Hey, what does that look like for the Thing lore and that expansion?
Yeah, and there was a canceled sequel to this. There is a lot of artwork and stuff you can find online. I know somebody on YouTube a few years ago did a really great video going through all of it and kind of describing what the story was going to be. But yeah, they were going to get even more creative and a little bit more original with the monsters. Because the thing about The Thing is that they do use a lot of the same critters and creatures, a lot of familiar faces you see from the film, which is not a knock on it at all. It's awesome to see that. But yeah, I'm so beyond excited that this is getting its remaster and we'll finally be able to play it. And I'm definitely, Killer Clowns was a fun time. I know we've said it 100 times, we're not big video game people, but I think that this would just be the most opportune time for me to sit down and stream something for the channel and really go through the whole story. So I may try to do that when the game comes out. We'll see how everybody's feeling. We'll put a poll out there. And yeah, maybe Luke and I will trade off and we'll kind of experience this game together. And, it's not a very long game. I remember I bought it back when I got a PS2 at our old establishment. And I played for a couple hours through it. And yeah, I think just having some updated controls, some updated graphics and everything will do this thing justice and really iron out some of the old bugs that they had. But as much as I love talking about my favorite horror film getting a remaster of a beloved video game, we do have some new video games to discuss as well, because our old friends over at Blumhouse have just thrown their hat into the ring for video games. And we knew this was coming. This was announced. Yes, Night Swim the game. What was that fucking dolphin game? That it was Echo the Dolphin. That's what it's going to be like. It's going to be like Echo the Dolphin. I'll put a little clip up there.
We'll have Wyatt Russell in it too. He's riding a dolphin.
This is also one that I was kind of like, okay, yeah, you guys know how we are, Blumhouse Films, everything. They've really gotten on our bad side recently. Now, to be fair, they have a little bit of a nice green check mark on their report card right now with us, because they hired Mike Flanagan on to fix The Exorcist. So hopefully that'll still be green by the time that comes out. But I have to admit, seeing this trailer, and mind you, this is just a trailer, I was pretty intrigued. I expected like mobile game level of quality, where they're just going to throw their name on things, or they're just going to throw like, these are just going to be like app games or whatever. But they have a pretty wide variety of different styles here. And I really liked the idea of them kind of taking the same model that they're using for their films, as far as relying on independent or up-and-coming filmmakers. Same thing here with up-and-coming game developers. Taking smaller studios and giving them the Blumhouse name to kind of run with what they want. And the other big piece of this that I was pretty impressed by is there's no recognizable IP. These are all new stories and new ideas. So I was totally expecting to walk in here and see Sinister the game, Five Nights at Freddy's from Blumhouse, and The Purge the game. That's what I was expecting. But no, they're all new properties. And Luke, you got to see this trailer. How you feeling about it?
I'm not a video game guy, as we've said multiple times in this video already, but I really do love watching video games be played. My wife plays video games. What Little Nightmares is one she plays. She played Until Dawn. In those games, are very terrifying. Little Nightmares is just, I don't know if you've seen that, but there's some really intriguing concepts and just imagery in that thing. You know, and I knew nothing about it. You know, that's not something from an actual film or anything like that. So I'm excited to see what they bring here. I mean, we talk about Five Nights at Freddy's. That started as a little independent game and kind of took on a life of its own, and they've made a ton of money, you know, with the film. So I'm curious if this is kind of one of those ideas of, you know, let's get these independent games. We'll see what's out there, what kind of undertaking this is, what kind of following this does get when it's released, and then what can translate, you know, from those grains of ideas, or if they end up becoming very cinematic, are they going to become films? Because, you know, I think horror gaming is such a lucrative avenue in terms of storytelling. Again, you get these really intriguing ideas. Little Nightmares, I go back to, is such a weird concept, but it works so well, and it kind of really does stick with you. So, you know, I think this is such a smart play for them to kind of broaden their horizons and not just zero in on horror films, but also horror video games, and kind of take that approach of, you know, you never know what's going to hit. So kind of, you know, back some independent game developers. Let's open the world up here and kind of get the name out there and see what's going to catch with a big audience, because horror gaming, I mean, right now is really a top lucrative avenue to go down, because there are so many people that might not be big horror fans, but I think when you're sitting alone in a room at night, I think there's just something bone chilling about it. I played the Resident Evil games as a kid, and those things were downright terrifying just from those opening cutscenes. So, you know, I think this is going to be something that's rather interesting, and I'm curious to see what does spawn from these video games.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, going down the list here, they have some interesting concepts. So starting things off, they have Fear the Spotlight, which is from Cozy Game Pals. And it's kind of billing itself as a creepy love letter to classic 90s teen horror stories. So it's designed for modern audiences, but it kind of looks like it's going to be one of these like choose your own adventure puzzle game kind of things. So it looks pretty interesting. It's a mystery, but yeah, I like that they're going to kind of lean into the kind of the 90s aesthetic there. Then we have I think it's Crucial, I don't know how to say that, but Theater of the Idols. This is from Vermilia, and it's a first-person horror adventure where folklore and religion intertwine into a nightmare vision of Spain. Players will navigate a world steeped with eerie legends and sacred rituals, facing terrifying statues of saints that come to life in a desperate fight for survival. A player must sacrifice their own blood to use as ammunition against the horrors that lurk around every corner. Now, holy cow, that sounds ambitious and exciting. I'm not going to lie. That sounds like it could be really, really intense. And Grave Seasons looks like a fun one. This is from Perfect Garbage. It's a pixelated farming town simulation game. So if you've ever played like Stardew Valley or anything like that, you're pretty much, this is going to be that game, but with I think like twist. Yeah, it looks like it's that game with monsters and slasher killers running around, you know, trying to kill you at night while you're, you know, just trying to farm and live your life. And then there's the company Eyes Out has Sleep Awake, which is kind of taking place in a dystopian Earth, like a future cityscape. And it's apparently a story where people are disappearing when they fall asleep. And it seems pretty cool. Like, I mean, this is one of the ones where I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, I guess we'll see where that goes. This other one, though, from Play Me Studios, The Simulation. I don't know if this is going to be just a VR game, but I hope not, because I don't have a VR. But dude, this looks like fun. I love the concept here. As a retired game designer hired to investigate the case, you find a mode that plugs you into a rabbit hole of the unknown. More obscure games are uncovered. You cross fourth walls of other worlds and delve deep into terrifying truths that transcend your own reality. So it's like you're basically a retired game developer helping solve murders and crimes through like recreations. And it looks so cool being able to kind of like place people and actually like build the game. So it's pretty neat. And then lastly, this is the big one. This is the one that I was mostly excited to, you know, get your opinion on, is Project C, which it was revealed earlier this year. It's doesn't have, that's not its official name, but it's from Immortality, and that is the team of Sam Barlow and Brandon Cronenberg. There's not much more information other than that, but they are working on it together. We did get to see a little snippet of what it entails, and it looks like it's going to be very Cronenberg, very mind-bending-esque stuff. And I think that's super cool that we're getting a name like Brandon Cronenberg attached to a video game here, even if it's just in the writing stance.
And I think that's such an intriguing point to bring up because, as I touched on, a lot of these video games are so cinematic nowadays, and there's some unique storytelling that we do see with these video games that we don't necessarily see in films or books or anything like that. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see more directors, writers, whatever, dive into the realm of, creating these video games from a story perspective, because, Project C looks rather intriguing to me, and as soon as you mention Brandon Cronenberg, and any horror fans' ears are going to perk up because of, Possessor and Infinity Pool, things that, he's done in that unique vision that he does bring. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see some more horror directors kind of stepping into the video game realm, especially with Blumhouse getting in the game as well and having those connections to say, hey, if you have an idea that maybe won't work on film, or you kind of want to have proof of concept in some fashion, let's start creating a video game. Let's workshop this and see what we're going to get out of it, because this one, has my biggest interest probably out of the lot that you mentioned. But, looking at all these games as a whole, what a just a creative toy chest in a sense of, how many different ideas we can adapt into the horror genre and what we can bring. Because, you look at, books and things where it's like reading a book and I'm like, I don't know how well this will translate in film, but I get to live in the space of just reading this book and, these ideas that don't necessarily translate on film. And it's the same with video games where, even if these don't translate onto any sort of cinematic films, anything like that, it's fun to just live in the space and play. Like the farming simulator with the horror twist, I think is just it sounds like so much fun, so disposable. But, when you look at Project C, I think that's going to be very cinematic and really, really instill fear into you. So I'm rather intrigued by the lot that has been presented to us here, and see what Blumhouse is really going to bring to the table.
Yeah, I think that a few of these are very interesting to me. I think for right now, my biggest ones that I'm very curious to see how they turn out are going to be obviously Grave Seasons. That sounds like it'd be a whole lot of fun. It looks very tongue-in-cheek. And then Theater of the Idols sounds really cool, and they had a lot of footage of that, so it looks really nice. I just love the verbiage that they put in here too, talking about statues of saints that come to life, and you have to sacrifice your own blood to use as ammunition. Like, that's just so intense. Obviously, Project C, I'm pretty excited for just because of Brandon Cronenberg. But yeah, I hate to say this, but I'm feeling Blumhouse on this. I think like this was something I went into with zero expectations, probably more negative expectations and, lowered thoughts and feelings, but they really did do a pretty good job at this. Now the presentation itself was a little rocky. There was, I cannot lie. If you watch the video, they kind of like stop, and you could tell that the Jason Blum and the person he was up there with, I didn't catch her name, they're not used to speaking about video games, because you have the guy who's hosting it there, who's very well known. I don't know his name, but he's up there hosting it, and they're just kind of like, yeah, no, we're excited, basically giving the same spiel that they do for their movies. And I think this is so far looking like it could be really fun. We'll see what happens. Maybe this first lineup of games, they're all solid, they're all really cool, just like it did with their movies. And then in 5 years, we'll be talking about how they're all bullshit. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But nonetheless, we still have the Thing video game coming very soon. So I'm excited. I mean, honestly, we might have to be doing some more gaming content on the channel, at least very casually. You're not going to see it like... this isn't going to turn into a gaming channel by any means, but I think, like Luke had said earlier, horror games are kind of sweeping everything right now, and I think maybe there's a little avenue for us there to play around and see what lies with some of these, especially the indie titles when it comes to horror.
Absolutely. There's so many intriguing horror indie titles out there. My wife watches a lot of YouTube gamers, and there's always just random little independent games that these gamers are playing that, have rather intriguing concepts. And I'll be honest, there are moments where they get me, where I'm watching it and I'm just like, oh, and then, you flip on a flashlight and something's standing there. So, there are a lot of intriguing concepts here. So, Blumhouse has been asleep at the wheel for a little bit for their films, but I'm hoping they do bring it at least with the video games, because it could be very exciting here.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe we'll just have to bring somebody else on and they can do like a consistent stream for us, take that load off our shoulders. I know our buddy Adrian, he's a huge Silent Hill fan, and I know he's been expressing to me behind the scenes, I know he probably doesn't want me to say this, that he would love to talk about Silent Hill on the channel, just because he's not the biggest horror movie watcher, but when it comes to horror games, like, the dude can't get enough of them. So yeah, maybe we'll see. But alrighty, guys. Other than that, we got a lot of great stuff up on the channel. We have just been bombarded at the beginning of the month here with all kinds of indie titles, everything from Netflix to all the way at Neon and all kinds of other stuff. And we still have a few more coming down the pipeline. So take a look at those reviews. I also got to go see The Watcher yesterday. I soloed that one, and it was interesting. But yeah, other than that, we're doing okay. We're getting through it. We're making things happen, and that's all I got for you. So until next time, I'm Dylan Knoll.
And I'm Lick Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
Do it live, put Splattercast, kick it every day they live. Splash your ass.